Have you ever pushed on a door that was clearly labeled "Pulland"? The harder you shoved, the more stubborn that door seemed to get? That, my friend, is exactly what many of us do with our own lives. We call the resistance bad luck, the algorithm, or people not understanding us, when the real culprit is our own white-knuckled grip on how things must unfold. Blocking isn't a verdict on your worth. It's simply the universe whispering, "Hey, you're leaning on the wrong side of the hinge. Pause for a second and scan your week." How often have you refreshed your inbox, waiting for the one reply that would prove you matter? How many nights have you stayed up replaying a conversation, convinced that if you could just fix that moment, you'd finally feel whole? We've all tasted that anxious hunger. Wanting as humanity pulls us forward. Needing something to complete us, though? That's where the fracture starts. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, Epictetus reminded his students nearly 2,000 years ago. But here's the part we forget. Freedom isn't handed over once our checklist is finished. It arrives the instant our checklist stops deciding whether we deserve peace. Let me share a quick story. Early in my career, I submitted a short documentary to every festival I could find. I told myself, this is I-tone laurel on the poster, and doors will finally open. I tracked every notification like a heartbeat monitor. A month later, rejection emails filled my screen, and so did a creeping shame. Maybe I'm not good enough, I thought. Yet the work was the same film I'd once loved crafting at midnight in my tiny apartment. What changed? My grip. The festival badge had become a substitute for self-trust, and the tighter I clung, the faster my joy leaked out. Here's the paradox. The more we beg life to validate us, the less room life has to surprise us. Imagine cupping water from a stream. A loose palm collects plenty. A clenched fist ends up dry. That's not karma punishing desire, it's physics exposing tension. So let's test this in real time. Pick one goal circling your mind right now: a promotion, a relationship, a subscriber milestone. Ask yourself 2 questions. 1. Do I genuinely enjoy the process that leads there? 2. If the outcome takes longer, do I still feel enough? If either answer is no, you're not chasing a dream. You're running from a gap inside you. And gaps can't be filled with titles, followers, or somebody else's. Yes, they're filled by learning to stand still with your own thoughts and realizing nothing is missing from your basic worth. Think about the last truly magnetic person you met. Odds are they weren't flaunting credentials or begging for attention. They were relaxed, curious, present. That ease isn't luck. It's a skill built by loosening the emotional vice that screams, "I need this to breathe." When want evolves into need, our energy shifts from invitation to interrogation. And life, like any honest guest, would rather slip away than dine under a spotlight of panic. Let's get practical. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, pause. Place one hand over your chest and ask, what am I gripping today? Maybe it's the fear you'll never catch up with friends who seem ahead. Maybe it's the expectation that today's to-do list must end in applause. Name it. Then visualize yourself opening that clenched fist. Breathe into the empty space. Allow a flicker of curiosity. What if I'm already okay and everything else is bonus? This isn't spiritual fluff. Neurologists show that a mere 10 seconds of conscious breathing lowers cortisol enough to shift decision-making from fight or flight to creative problem-solving. Here's another lens. Picture a musician on a dim bar stage. 2 guitarists play the same chord progression. One hammers each note, desperate to impress. The other leans back, eyes half closed, letting the groove carry him. Whose music makes the room exhale? Talent matters, but vibe decides whether talent lands. Your projects, pitches, even your conversations work the same way. Show up with a death grip on outcome, and people feel the static. Show up rooted in your own sufficiency, and even a small idea can echo. I'm not asking you to delete ambition. Ambition is the engine, neediness is the handbrake. Loosen the brake, and the same horsepower moves farther with less fuel. Instead of searching the horizon for signposts of approval, You start noticing the scenery of this moment ideas hiding in plain sight. Allies you've overlooked, rest you've postponed. If you're thinking, sounds good, but bills are real, you're right. Stoicism was never about pretending life's demands don't exist. It's about refusing to let those demands hijack your inner compass. Epictetus himself was born a slave. His philosophy grew in the harshest economics. Yet he discovered a freedom nobody could auction: the choice to decide what ruled his peace. So here's your experiment for the next 7 days. Note one situation each day where you feel blocked. Identify the tight belief beneath it. I must publish weekly or people will leave. I must get that text back tonight or they'll lose interest. Write a single sentence that honors your desire but releases the demand. I care about consistency, and I'm still valuable if a video goes out on Saturday instead of Friday. Then watch what shifts. Sometimes the obstacle dissolves. Sometimes it stays. But your shoulders drop, and suddenly you see an alternate path you were too tense to notice before. Before we wrap this section, let me leave you with a question I ask myself whenever I feel that old frantic buzz. If everything I'm chasing vanished tomorrow, who's left standing in the silence? Your answer is the part of you no algorithm can shadow ban, no rejection letter can dent. That steady core is where genuine magnetism starts, where want is allowed to dream, but need is kindly shown the door. Stick around, because in the next segment, we'll dive into 3 practical habits that transform loosened grip into tangible progress without sacrificing ambition or authenticity. And if this message struck a chord, tap subscribe so these conversations meet you right when the digital noise gets loud. Remember, you're not here to beg life for proof. You're here to invite it with open, confident hands. Have you ever noticed how a simple wish I'd love a quiet weekend can, almost stealthily, mutate into a full-blown requirement? Suddenly it's, I need this weekend to be perfect, or I'll lose my mind. The shift is microscopic in the moment, but it changes everything in your body. Your shoulders climb, your breath shortens. Your mind begins scanning for threats, traffic, weather, last-minute emails, anything that might rob you of that fragile perfection. That, right there, is desire crossing the invisible line into dependence. No alarm bell rings. There's no pop-up warning you. Caution, attachment detected. It just slips in, the way dusk replaces afternoon quietly, inch by inch, until the streetlights flicker on, and you realize you're standing in the dark. Why does it matter? Because the instant wanting becomes needing. Your energy flips from expansive to contracted. Think of your nervous system like a camera lens. When you want, the aperture is wide. Light pours in, possibilities feel endless. When you need, the aperture snaps shut. The scene narrows. Everything outside that tight frame becomes a threat. You're no longer curious, you're on guard. You're not surfing the wave, you're clinging to the board, white-knuckled, afraid of the water beneath. Carl Jung warned us long ago. What you resist not only persists, but grows in size. Picture a beach ball you're trying to hold underwater. The harder you press, the stronger it pushes back, wobbling with pent-up force. That's exactly what happens when we resist uncertainty, when we grip outcomes too tightly. Our need or refusal to allow any other scenario actually inflates the very tension we're desperate to deflate. Anxiety begets more anxiety, like interest on an emotional credit card. Let me give you a story from my own creative life. A few years back, I launched a small docu-series on a shoestring budget. Episode 1 did alright 5,000 views in the first week. Not viral, but encouraging. I told myself, great start, then desire quietly crossed the line. By episode 2, I decided I had to break 10,000 views, or the project was a failure. I refreshed analytics the way some people check X's Instagram stories compulsively, half ashamed. Each refresh that fell short of my magic number felt like a threat to my identity as a filmmaker. My editing lost its playfulness. I began second-guessing every cut, chasing trends I didn't even like. Guess what happened? Views plateaued. Momentum stalled. I was squeezing the beach ball with both hands, and the project suffocated under my grip. Here's the paradox. When need steps in, creativity steps out. Whether you're cutting a film, pitching a startup, or texting someone you're excited about, the moment your sense of wholeness hinges on their reaction, you hand over the remote control of your piece. And peace, my friend, is a terrible thing to outsource. Let's zoom out and get practical. How do you know you've slipped from desire into dependence? Watch for 4 subtle tells. 1. Tight timelines. You insist the goal must land now, not next month. Not after you refine the craft, but this very cycle. 2. Binary thinking. Anything short of 100% feels like 0%. A B+ review feels like failure. 3. Body signals. Shallow breathing, clenched jaw, that fluttering stomach when you picture the "what if it doesn't happen?" 4. Constant comparison. You scroll social feeds, hunting evidence that someone else got what you're still gripping for, and your mood spirals. If one of these sounds too familiar, pause. That pause is not passivity. It's preventative medicine. Alignment call it flow. Call it grace cannot enter through a door blocked by panic. You have to release the deadbolt first. So how do we loosen the grip without losing the spark that got us moving in the first place? I use a 2-step reset I call breathe and broaden. Breathe, 10 seconds. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 4. This simple box breath tells your amygdala, stand down, we're not in mortal danger. Broaden, 1 minute. Ask, what else could success look like? Maybe the relationship you crave shows up as a deeper friendship first. Maybe the promotion morphs into a lateral move that teaches a skill you'll need later. By widening the definition of winning, you turn pressure valves into possibility portals. Sound soft? Neuroscience backs it up. Positive psychologist Barbara Fredrickson calls this the broaden and build effect positive. Open states of mind literally expand our field of vision and help us spot resources we'd otherwise overlook. In other words, detachment isn't lazy, it's strategic. Now, let me flip the lens on something deeper. The stories underneath our needs. Often the external object, more money, a partner, recognition, is just a costume. The real craving is safety, belonging, or self-respect. When those inner nutrients feel scarce, we project the hunger onto tangible targets. If the target arrives, great. If it doesn't, the hunger doubles back, louder than before, because we never addressed the root. Take a second. Which inner nutrient might your latest obsession be masking? Is the push for a bigger house actually a plea for family acceptance? Is the quest for 100K subscribers a stand-in for feeling heard? Spotting that hidden layer doesn't erase ambition, it simply returns the steering wheel to your own hands. Here's a reframe I use with coaching clients. Instead of asking, how can I make this happen faster? Ask, how can I become the person who can hold this outcome lightly when it arrives? One question breeds anxiety, the other cultivates character. And character, unlike outcomes, is inside your jurisdiction 24/7. I won't pretend detachment happens overnight. Grip is a habit, and habits have muscle memory. But you can strengthen your let-go muscle the same way you build biceps reps and rest. Rep. Each time you feel that desperate Tooger-fresh finger hovering over the phone pause, breathe, broaden, rest. Schedule spaces where metrics are off limits. Sunday evenings, I shut analytics down. I'm not avoiding data. I'm protecting imagination, letting ideas incubate without the glare of numbers. Over weeks, something strange happens. The universe starts meeting you halfway. The email you agonized over pops in after you've already made peace with silence. View counts creep up during your digital Sabbath. Is it mystical? Maybe. Or maybe you finally removed the static that blocked the signal all along. Before we roll into the next chapter, let's land this plane with a reflection you can journal tonight. Where in my life am I pressing the beach ball underwater? And what might float to the surface if I simply open my hands? Write it, feel it, and watch what ideas swim up. They were always there waiting for the water to calm. Stick around, because in the next segment, we'll explore 3 concrete practices that turn healthy desire into sustainable momentum so you can chase big dreams without losing your center. If you're finding value here, hit that subscribe button. It tells the algorithm this conversation matters, and it keeps our loft of ideas well lit for everyone who needs it. Have you ever noticed how the days you need everything to go right are exactly the days your coffee spills, your Wi-Fi glitches, and someone cuts you off in traffic twice just to prove the universe has a sense of humor? That's not random sabotage. It's a mirror. The more tightly we clutch reality, the more reality wiggles out of our grasp, like a bar of soap in a hot shower. Let's slow this down. Tension, reactivity, mental drain, those 3 siblings move in the moment we decide we must have something to feel okay. It might be a client's, yes, a partner's text, your cholesterol numbers at this year's checkup. Suddenly your brain, which was designed for creativity, reroutes its power to surveillance. You're on constant lookout for the tiniest sign of success or failure. Ever refresh your email so often the little "No new messages" banner feels like personal rejection? Yeah, me too. Here's the plot twist the sages warned us about. Plato, sipping metaphorical coffee 24 centuries ago, laid it flat. The first and best victory is to conquer self. Not your competitors, not the market, not even the inbox self. Why? Because once need hijacks the driver's seat, it blinds us to the abundance parked right beside us. The coworker ready to collaborate, the skill we've quietly mastered, the joyful silence between 2 deep breaths. We miss those gifts because our inner GPS is locked on a single destination, and it won't stop shouting, recalculating, every time life takes an unexpected turnoff. Think of it like this. You're at a concert, favorite band on stage, but instead of dancing, you're filming the entire show, obsessed with getting the perfect shot for Instagram. In chasing a highlight reel, you traded the actual experience for pixelated proof. Need shrinks the moment. Even when we wing it the raise, sign the deal, reach the wait, goal relief is brief, because a new need instantly loads in the queue, like the next video autoplaying before the credits finish rolling. I learned this the sweaty way at mile 20 of my first, and only, marathon. I'd trained for months, convinced that crossing the finish line would fix every ounce of imposter syndrome I carried. Around mile 16, my quads screamed mutiny, and something stranger happened in my head. The closer I got to the goal, the more afraid I became of failing publicly. Instead of enjoying the sunrise over the city skyline, something I'd never seen on foot, I was busy catastrophizing. What if I collapse in front of the crowd? What if my time is embarrassing? That inner chase carved a mental tunnel so narrow the beauty of the run simply couldn't fit inside. I finished, yes, but joyless, numb. The medal felt heavy, like it came stapled to a bill marked, "Try harder next time." That's what need does. It paints every milestone with an asterisk. Sure, you made it, but can you keep it? Was it even good enough? The win feels unsafe, because panic doesn't evaporate when you achieve the goal. It just shifts into the next hypothetical threat. We end up living in a permanent if-then equation. If I earn X, then I'll relax. But the goalposts move, and peace stays on layaway. So, how do we loosen this grip without drifting into apathy? Let's borrow a leaf from modern sports psychology. Active acceptance. Picture an athlete at the free throw line. They acknowledge pressure, crowd noise, game clock, sweaty palms, but they don't argue with it. They breathe, focus on form, release. The hoop doesn't shrink because of nerves, only their perception does. In our lives, active acceptance looks like saying, "Yes, I want the promotion, but my worth doesn't pull its oxygen from that title." When you anchor value internally, you stop strangling outcomes externally. Ironically, that centered posture often improves performance, because energy once burned on panic is now free for genuine presence. Try this micro practice tomorrow. When you catch yourself racing, heart pounding before a meeting, Doom scrolling for validation, pause for a 60-second scan. 1. Notice the signal. Tense shoulders. Rapid speech. 2. Name the need. I need their approval. 3. Neutralize the story. Whisper a grounding fact. I've prepared. One opinion can't erase my competence. 4. Narrow your focus. Choose the next single, controllable action. A calm breath, an honest answer, a thoughtful question. Simple? Yes? Easy? Nope. But repetition rewires reactivity into responsiveness, and responsiveness is the soil where alignment grows. Nothing aligned with peace arrives through panic, because panic slams the door on curiosity, the very sense that allows fresh possibilities to step inside. One more angle before we close. Consider the last time someone needed you desperately, maybe a friend texting 10 times an hour, or a salesperson hovering while you browsed. Did that energy draw you closer? Or did it trigger the human instinct to step back? The universe, God, life, whatever vocabulary fits your worldview, responds similarly. When we radiate trust, options lean in. When we broadcast scarcity, everything, including our own creativity, takes a cautious half step away. So tonight, when the house quiets and the glow of your phone tempts you to measure yourself in likes or unread messages, ask instead, where is tension living in my body? And what gentle thing could I offer it stretching, journaling, prayer so it can loosen its grip? You might be amazed how quickly clarity rushes in once panic clocks out. Remember Plato's scoreboard. True victory isn't outscoring the world. It's mastering the self who keeps rewriting the rules mid-game. Want boldly, dream widely. But hold those dreams like a painter holds a brush, not a lifeline, but a tool. Paint with passion, step back, choose the next color. That's how masterpieces and peaceful people are made. Host smiles, lifts mug. Take a sip of grace, friends. In the next chapter, we'll explore concrete habits that turn this inner ease into outer momentum. Because calm isn't the absence of drive, it's the engine that doesn't overheat. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, and share this with someone whose shoulders could use a little lowering today. See you after the break. Have you ever paused in the middle of a win, maybe a promotion, a new relationship, a personal record at the gym to feel an unexpected hollowness? That subtle whisper. Okay, what's next? What if this slips away? If so, you're in good company. Most of us were raised on the story that our value lives one milestone ahead. But what if that story is the very anchor slowing us down, releasing the incomplete narrative? Let's start here. You are not a half-finished project waiting for life to stamp you complete. The late-night highlight reels, the step counter streaks, the subscriber tallies their data points, not destiny. Picture a painter judging an entire masterpiece by one brushstroke. Sounds absurd, right? Yet we do it daily, reducing our wholeness to the result of the next sales pitch or first date. Here's a quick mental exercise. Close your eyes, well, maybe after the video, and list 3 times you felt pure Pisano adrenaline, no audience, just steady contentment. Notice how few of those moments depended on trophies or applause. Mine? Rock skipping with my nephew, a post-rain coffee on the porch, and a random Tuesday night when I finally learned the chords to Blackbird. None came with a certificate, yet each felt strangely complete. So why does letting go feel scary? Because somewhere along the line, we equated contentment with settling. Enter our ancient guide Socrates, who flips that script. He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. In other words, contentment isn't the absence of ambition. It's the power source that fuels healthy ambition. When your worth isn't up for auction, you pursue goals from curiosity, not survival. And curiosity is a far more sustainable engine. Calm energy versus desperation vibes. Let's talk energy. Ever walked into a networking event and instantly felt drawn to someone who seemed light? They weren't pushing business cards like lottery tickets. They were simply present asking questions, laughing easily. That calm, trusting vibe is magnetic. On the flip side, think about the last time you sensed desperation, a salesperson who kept talking after you'd already said, "Let me think." Or a date who texted 5 follow-ups before you even reached your car. That tension repelled you, right? Opportunities read the room the same way people do. There's neuroscience behind this. When we operate from calm trust, our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, widening peripheral vision and boosting creative problem solving. We literally see more possibilities. Desperation, however, floods the body with cortisol. Vision narrows, risk tolerance drops, and we cling to the first option, even if it's mediocre. So, calm isn't a luxury item, it's strategic leverage. Trust is the gatekeeper of alignment. Alignment, the sweet spot where effort feels fluent and life throws in helpful synchronicities, begins the moment we act from trust, not fear. Trust doesn't mean ignoring data or skipping practice. It means doing the work, then releasing the grip on how the reward must arrive. Let me share a quick personal story. 2 years ago, I pitched a documentary series to 3 streaming platforms. 1 executive loved it. 2 passed. A younger version of me would have spiraled refreshing email, questioning my talent. Instead, I let it breathe. I revised the proposal, sent it to an unexpected contact, and shelved the obsession for a week while I volunteered at a community film camp. Ironically, the camp led me to a producer who ultimately funded the pilot. Same idea, different door own I would have missed if I'd been glued to the original handle, rattling it in panic. Here's a question you can borrow. Am I holding this goal like a steering wheel or a stress ball? If your knuckles are white, it's the latter. Loosen the squeeze. Let new routes appear. Practical microshifts. Okay, philosophy is great, but how do we live this in the chaos of bills and push notifications? Try these 3 microshifts this week. 1. Outcome-free reps. Pick 1 daily activity: writing a paragraph, practicing guitar, walking the dog, and do it purely for the act itself. No tracking, no sharing, no monetizing. Train your brain to taste value without a scoreboard. 2. The 2-day rule. Celebrate wins for a full 48 hours before chasing the next target. This forces you to metabolize joy instead of skipping breakfast on your way to lunch. 3. Trust ledger. Each night, jot down 1 instance where something worked out after you stopped forcing it. The parking spot that opened, the idea that popped up in the shower. Over time, that ledger becomes evidence. Your mind learns that non-gripping is not laziness. It's collaboration with reality. Closing reflection. Imagine standing on a beach at dawn. Waves roll in, roll out, none of them begging to be bigger, none apologizing for being small. They just arrive, do their dance, and retire. Your worth, like the ocean, doesn't fluctuate with each wave. When that truth sinks in, you move through life with what I call quiet thunder and undercurrent of certainty that doesn't need to shout. So the next time your brain says, "I have to nail this," or else pause and ask, "Who am I if it goes sideways? And is that person actually okay?" Spoiler, they usually are. And from that grounded center, you'll make sharper choices, hear subtler cues, and yes, draw in opportunities that were previously skittish around all that noise. If this resonated, friend, take a deep breath right. Now inhale possibility, exhale pressure. Then hit subscribe so we can keep rewiring the narrative together. In our next segment, we'll break down 3 everyday habits that hardwire contentment into your nervous system. No mountaintop retreats required. Until then, remember, contentment isn't the consolation prize. It's the power that lets you play the game on your own terms. Have you ever punched the gas on a road trip only to realize 5 exits later that you're heading the wrong direction? Motivation works the same way. The engine can roar, but if the map is fear-coded, you end up speeding toward a dead end. Tonight, let's climb out of autopilot, pop the hood, and ask a question most people skip. What's really driving my inspiration or fear? Inspiration versus fear. The road test. Grab a quick memory. The last project you started with electric excitement. Maybe building a deck in the backyard, launching a side hustle, or finally signing up for salsa lessons. Remember that light, buoyant feeling? That's inspiration. Now contrast it with the last time you acted, because you felt cornered frantically updating a resume after rumors of layoffs. Or texting someone 5 times because silence scared you. That tightness in your chest? Fear? Disguised as productivity. Here's why the difference matters. The universe, life, God, whatever label, fits responds less to your perfectly phrased goals and more to the state you broadcast while pursuing them. Think of it like tuning a radio. Clear frequencies attract clear signals. Static attracts noise. When we operate from panic, we pump static into every conversation, email, and brainstorm. Even if our words sound calm, the underlying pressure leaks through tone, timing, and body language. I learned this on a sweaty July afternoon pitching a documentary to potential investors. 5 sharp suits across a glossy boardroom table. I'd rehearsed every statistic, every cinematic shot list, convinced preparation alone would seal the deal. But underneath my polished pitch was a fear soundtrack blaring, "If they say no, your film dies." Halfway through, my voice cracked. I rushed slides, skipped jokes, and when questions came, I answered defensively, like someone trying to outrun a bear, not invite a partnership. The suit smiled politely, thanked me, and passed. Months later, at a smaller cafe meeting I hadn't overscripted, I presented the same concept, but this time, curiosity, not fear, drove the dialogue. I asked what stories moved them, where the film might align with their mission. They invested within a week. Same deck, different state. Pressure versus presence. Physics of energy. Let's get practical. Imagine trying to stuff a balloon into a glass bottle. If you blow air hard and fast, friction builds and the balloon refuses to budge. Counterintuitively, a slow, steady breath combined with a little soapy waterlets, the balloons slide in without a fight. That's energy physics. Pressure creates resistance, calm creates flow. Science backs this up. When we're anxious, the body unleashes cortisol, shrinking the field of attention to survival tasks great for outrunning wolves, terrible for creative problem solving. Peaceful intention, on the other hand, engages the prefrontal cortex, widening perspective, connecting distant ideas, and signaling safety to the people across the table. Doors open because the room feels breathable again. Aristotle's shortcut to wisdom. Philosopher, side note, because you know I can't resist. Aristotle called self-knowledge the beginning of all wisdom. Translation for 2025. If you can't name your engine, you can't service the vehicle. Most of us never lift the mental hood. We just keep topping off the ambition tank, wondering why the ride rattles. Self-inquiry is not navel gazing. It's preventive maintenance. Try this quick diagnostic. Before you send that email, launch that product, or swipe that dating app, yes, ask. 1. If no one claps, would I still choose this action? 2. If success took twice as long, would I still feel energized? 3. Does this goal expand my sense of self or protect it from criticism? If your answers tilt toward fear, I just want to prove. I can't wait to silence doubters, pump the brakes. You're about to gun the engine on a shaky alignment. 3 micro practices to shift state. 1. The 2-breath reset. Next time you feel the urge to push, pause. Inhale through the nose 4 counts, hold 2, exhale through pursed lips 6. On the second breath, soften your jaw and drop your shoulders. It's a 15-second hack that tells your nervous system, no tigers here. Proceed creatively. 2. Draft, don't dramatize. Write the first email, pitch, or proposal as a practice draft no one will see. Get the perfectionism hidden fear out of your system. Then close the doc, stretch, and return with calmer eyes for version 2. You'll be surprised how often the rewrite sounds warmer, clearer, shorter. 3. Evening inventory. Before bed, list one action fueled by inspiration and one fueled by fear. No judgment, just observation. Over a week, patterns surface. Awareness plants the seeds Aristotle was talking about. A personal detour, because stories stick. Years ago, I trained for a half marathon purely to beat my college roommate's time A, fear-flavored goal if ever there was one. Injury followed, motivation tanked, and I quit at mile 8 on race day. Last spring, I signed up again. But this time, the goal shifted. Run each mile, noticing 3 interesting things: a graffiti tag, a stranger's encouraging sign, the smell of fresh waffles near mile 9. I crossed the finish line slower than my roommate's ancient record, yet somehow richer, because every step felt like dialogue with the city, not a duel with a ghost. Guess which story I tell at dinner parties? Closing reflection. Tune the frequency. So, friend in the passenger seat, where are you driving from tonight? Inspiration lane or fear alley? Remember, peaceful intention opens doors that desperate effort keeps slamming shut. You can't fake the frequency. People and possibilities can feel the tremor behind your words. Tune first, talk second. If this hit home, consider this your gentle U-turn sign. Take the slower route, roll the windows down, trust that the right collaborations, ideas, and yes, investors prefer cruising speed over drag race panic. In our next segment, we'll decode 3 real-world success stories where leaders replaced frantic hustle with strategic calm and watched results multiply. Until then, drop a comment below. What's one goal you're ready to pursue from inspiration rather than fear? Your insight might nudge someone else out of the wrong lane. Host. Smiling, conversational tone. Have you ever watched a lighthouse at night? It doesn't chase the ships, it simply stands still, sending out steady light. The captains know exactly where to sail, not because the tower begs for attention, but because its presence is unmistakable. Tonight, I want to explore how we can become that lighthouse. How detachment, a concept most of us misunderstand, can quietly turn our lives from frantic pursuit into effortless attraction. 1. Wanting versus needing. The invisible line. Let's begin with a quick self-check. Think of something you'd love right now, maybe landing a new client, finding your person, or watching your side hustle finally pay the rent. Excitement? Great. Now lean in. If I told you it might take 6 months longer, does your stomach knot? Or do you shrug and say, okay, I'll keep showing up? That reaction draws the line between want and need. Detachment isn't about giving up desire. It's about releasing the ultimatum that says, I can't be whole without this. When we stop demanding, we start inviting. A friend of mine, Claire, illustrates this perfectly. She spent 2 years pitching her handmade jewelry to boutiques with 0 bites. The moment she decided to create pieces purely for the joy of design, no quotas, no frantic cold email, sure Instagram caught the eye of a celebrity stylist. Sales exploded. Same talent, different energy. Claire's still thrilled when orders roll in, but the urgency is gone. Her creativity now leads the business instead of her panic. 2. Raising standards from alignment, not ego. Here's where most self-help books veer off the path. They shout, never settle, know your worth. True, but only half the truth. If your highest standards come from ego, they morph into entitlement. Why didn't they choose me? Don't they know who I am? Ego standards feel loud and brittle, but standards born from alignment are quiet, solid, and strangely magnetic. Alignment sounds like this. I'm building a company that respects weekends, so I'll only partner with clients who do the same. It isn't a flex. It's a boundary set by inner coherence. You don't need to broadcast it, the right people sense it, just as ships sense the lighthouse beam. Practical exercise. Write one sentence that captures a non-negotiable you'll keep because it protects your peace. Not because it inflates your resume. Post it on your wall. Every time a shiny offer appears, hold it against that line. If it dims your light, let it pass. 3. Stillness as a signal. We live in a culture of motion blur. Hustle harder. Rise and grind. Sleep is for the weak. But lighthouses aren't prized for moving. They're prized for persisting in stillness. When your nervous system is calm, your perception widens, and so does your influence. Think of networking events. The most magnetic person in the room is rarely the one bouncing between conversations with a stack of business cards. It's the woman who listens so intently that people form a queue just to talk to her. Her stillness is a beacon. You'll be heard here. Want to practice stillness? Try a one-breath pause. Before answering a question, breathe in slowly, breathe out slowly, then speak. That 2-second gap recenters your tone, lowers the room's pressure, and signals confidence stronger than any power pose. 4. Presence attracts alignment. Presence is more than mindfulness jargon. It's the currency life trades in. Opportunities don't read resumes, they read states. Ever notice how the perfect idea pops up after you've taken a shower or a walk? That's presence, your mind finally quiet enough for alignment to slip a note under the door. A mentor once told me, "You can't download a software update while the computer is running 20 tabs." Translation: cut the background anxiety and solutions load faster. Instead of cramming your calendar with 10 coffee meetings this month, try 5 but be fully present at each. You'll see the compounding effect of quality over quantity. Life, like good Wi-Fi, hates interference. 5. The paradox of wholeness. Here's the twist that Stoics, Buddhists, and even modern therapists converge on. Wholeness isn't a reward you unlock. It's the factory setting you forgot. Babies don't wake up questioning their worth. They demand milk like royalty. Somewhere along the way, we traded that certainty for external scoreboards, grades, promotions, follower counts. The journey back to wholeness isn't about collecting proof. It's about peeling off layers of false lack. Let me get personal. During a rough season, I taped a note above my desk. Nothing missing, nothing extra. I would read it before writing scripts. I still aimed for gripping hooks and tight storytelling, but I stopped tying my self-respect to the view count. Paradoxically, my channel's engagement rose, the audience could feel the ease. Turns out authenticity carries a frequency bots can't fake. 6. Detachment in action. A 48-hour challenge. Ready for a field test? Over the next 2 days, 1. Name one desire that's grown into a need. Write it down. 2. List 2 ways you can enjoy pursuing it without hooking your identity to the outcome. Example, if you need 10K subscribers, focus on learning a new editing trick and celebrating every genuine comment. 3. Schedule one pocket of stillness. 10 minutes, phone on airplane mode, just breathing or sipping Tino Gold beyond presence. Watch for subtle shifts. Lighter shoulders, fresher ideas, maybe an unexpected email sliding in because your energy finally left the door unlocked. Closing thought. The less you need, the more you signal. Picture this coastline again. Countless ships navigating darkness, each guided not by a chasing spotlight, but by an anchored glow. Your calm, aligned presence is that glow. The less you scream, "Notice me," the farther your light travels, the fewer outcomes you grip, the more life can deliver what truly fits. So, as the beam sweeps across these waves, ask yourself, what if I trusted my inner lighthouse enough to stand still, shine steady, and let the right ships come to shore? Drop your reflections in the comments. Your story might become someone else's North Star. And if this episode helped you exhale, tap subscribe so we can keep exploring ways to turn philosophy into daily power. Until next time, hold your wants lightly, your standards firmly. And remember, wholeness was never waiting out there. It's been pulsing inside you, ready to light the night. Host, leaning forward warmly. So here we are, friend. at the edge of everything we've explored tonight. And if you remember only one sentence, let it be this paradox: the less you need, the more life delivers. It sounds upside down, like telling a seed to bloom by resting, yet nature proves it daily. The tree that grows deepest roots doesn't cling to rainstorms. It trusts water will come, and in the meantime, draws strength from within. That's our invitation. Stop gripping. Open the tight fist you've wrapped around timelines, titles, and other people's approval. Every moment you unclench, you release a signal that says, I'm already whole. I'm just here to express it. And life, much smarter than any 5-year plan, responds to that frequency faster than it ever answered panic. If you need a roadmap, try this 3-step mini practice tomorrow. 1. Pause and notice. When stress spikes, whisper, I'm gripping again. And exhale, like you're fogging a mirror. 2. Ask in a line, what would this look like if I trusted the process? Maybe 1 email instead of 10, 1 thoughtful thank you instead of a frantic follow-up. 3. Release and receive. Do the next honest action, then step back. Let the universe have its turn at the wheel. You'll discover something wild. Not only does the world keep spinning without your white-knuckle supervision, it often spins gifts straight into your Pathan unexpected collaborator. A clearer idea, a pocket of free time you'd have missed while overmanaging. Freedom and power, the real kind, the kind no market crash or comments section can steal, arrive the moment you need less and invite more. Less proving, more presence. Less begging, more magnetism. That's not daydreamy philosophy. It's practical physics of energy, proven by every great creator, leader, and quiet neighbor who walks through life with a soft smile and doors that somehow open. The host stands, camera following, in a gentle tracking shot. As the sun drops behind the skyline, ask yourself, where can I loosen my grip tonight? Maybe it's the promotion you're chasing, the reply you're refreshing for, or the story that says, you'll be enough when. Loosen. Trust. Watch what flows in through the space you just made. If this message sparked even a flicker of calm, share it with someone whose shoulders are up around their ear slits. Start a small revolution of open hands. And, of course, tap subscribe so we can keep unpacking these ideas together. Until next time, hold your vision lightly, your standards firmly, and remember, life loves to fill the cup that isn't already overflowing with worry.